Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we are continuing the development of the UniCon style cargo or crate. Now you may notice some differences from the first video, and that is because, as anything, when it goes through kind of research and development and additional comments and things, you end up with, changes, revisions, stuff like that. So I'm going to be going through the latest version of the UniCon cargo, starting with first the fact that people are placing screenshots of this on the official Discord for the game. So love to see that. And in addition to that, there's actually people who have uploaded their own versions of vehicles and lifters and even crates. So super cool to see that. Love to see it start getting used, and there's a lot of plans for it, as well as a lot of talks for this system. I'm taking major amounts of requests and ideas on my own Discord server, and I've come up with a couple of new ideas as well as some other things that are going to be coming. But before I even get into any of that, any of the changes, any of that stuff, I want to talk about something else. I've revised the actual standards and templates, so you can now easily see the wooden crate as well as the metal cargo piece. But that's not all. I've updated this required items list, so when you go to subscribe, it's going to ask you for some awesome support vehicles. And if you head on to my own workshop, you'll see that in addition to the various cargo elements, I've uploaded this quick lift truck, a box truck with liftgate, another box truck with liftgate, and this first Rat Uniloader 50. So these things are out currently, and I have many more planned to come out, but I just wanted to let you know that there is planned to be lots of support for these connectors or for these pieces of cargo, so you're not going to be stuck making cargo without the ability to lift and place them. So what has changed with the template? Well, first things first, you may realize that there are more samples. I believe the first time I started off, we only had 4, or even less, maybe 3. For sure we had this one, probably this one, and I think the one that was empty. But forget all that, I've updated them. So starting from the top, in this very first one here, you'll see that these are the required parts, and I've added a scale for size, so you could actually see they are 7 by 7. Now that 7 by 7 is the actual cargo size. We do have a block sticking out, so when you do place your electric and your fluid connectors, they actually have to be 9 blocks apart, because you have one on each additional side, and that's what makes the H4 style connector that I developed. If any of this is gibberish to you, take a look at my workshop. I have now a collection for the H4 style. Anyway, you see here you can have an extended or oversized UniCon container going out in each direction, so you can have a 9 block long style cargo. But I've added now the grippers in the other direction, and that was something I thought about long and hard last time, because I saw the air ISO and the ability to pretty much slide cargo in and position it. And while this isn't necessarily inherently a air type of cargo, it is useful to be able to slide it in the other direction, and I'll show you that actually later. But there are a couple of accidental or serendipitous advantages to this cargo system, and I'll explain them in this video. But first things first, so like I said, now you can come up to your container, and if you release the bottom connectors, of course now these are released, and you could see here you could release the main track, and down here you can release the side UniCon, which is this thing, or you can release the perpendicular track or the parachute toggle. So if we go ahead and release the main track, you'll actually be able to push it on the perpendicular track. Now I'm going to enable that, and it pretty much clicks into place, or it should click into place as it passes over. So now we are in the main track, let's call it. So now if you release the perpendicular one, well, now you should be able to position it and push it into any spot like this. So these are just some of the advantages that you get here by having this, call it, track system, as I talked about. And also, not only that, I think that the UniCon cargo is extremely useful to being a small container. Now, that's something I heard from many people. Thank you for giving us a nice small cargo or container. So I want it to be able to really, really use it by hand. And this type of system really allows you to use it by hand versus having to get all kinds of equipment and machinery to move it. So you can see here something simple as this. You can just grab it and pull it, and as long as it's on that track, you're able to move it. So really neat. Next, you'll notice that we have this crate, which we previously didn't have. Previously, they all looked like this. They're all metal. What does this crate do? Well, first of all, there is no battery power. You'll notice here there's a battery power with solar panels on the top of all of these. Well, not this one, because this one has dual doors, but all the other ones have solar panels and batteries and a charging port. So you have to keep a charge. Well, crates, you don't. Crates, you simply press this, unlock a crate, and then you can grab this and open it up. Now, these ones have the buttons for the slider brakes, whereas this one, the button is shared by the other, by opening this package. But you can see now, you could even do this, and as long as you kind of push it in, you can close it and lock it, and now it shouldn't move. So really neat and simple way of making cargo without battery power, without any electricity. So what I call is these are my crate systems, and then these are the cargo systems. So that's just a way to differentiate them. You'll notice on my creations like this one is called the UniCon crate, whereas this one is the UniCon cargo. So simply just a way to define what its function and purpose is. Of course, the wooden ones are not going to be tanks. They're not going to be living pods like this. Instead, they're more likely going to be equipment, let's call it. Back to this here, you'll notice that this one still has the double doors. So this one remains unchanged. This one remains unchanged. Like I said, the only thing I've added is the brakes. So these are the way they were. This one also remains unchanged. This one doesn't have a parachute, as you can tell from the sign. This one does have a parachute, as you can tell from the orange P. Now this one has changed, and what it first of all is the extended or oversized cargo. So it's one block on each side longer. But in addition to that, I did kind of change the profile. You could see this one has the 4x1 curved pieces. This is more blocky, so it just gives you a lot more space and size. Now, of course, you're free to change the shape entirely. I'm just recommending these as kind of standardized types of crates and cargo boxes. Now, keep in mind that this 8 is the maximum height. It allows you to fit it into the trucks like that. It allows you to fit it into the helicopters, but still, it's each size or each cargo is kind of its own thing. You'll note here that this crate is actually a little shorter than the rest. So whereas this one here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tall from there, this is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a total of 6 here and a total of 7 there. Now we can go all the way up to 8, but that's kind of pushing it. So anyways, this is shorter, but yes, you can extend it, and you'll see over there those two. So that one is short, that one's tall. Both do the exact same thing. The only difference is the tall one, in my opinion here, is better for a parachute. So here we've actually fit in a parachute, whereas in the other one, it's simply just the piece of cargo, so no parachute, nothing like that. Now, one of the serendipitous things that I mentioned is, in addition to now having the ability to move up and down these tracks, well, you actually can use a forklift such as this to lift up a cargo such as this or crate and push it into something in its perpendicular axis where previously you couldn't. So keep in mind this van right here is only 7 blocks wide in its cargo bed. So it's 7 blocks wide, the container is 7 blocks wide. So if we tried to put it in this direction, these connectors would have nowhere to grab. Whereas if we slide it in the kind of perpendicular direction like this, well, these guys can grab onto that and stop it from pretty much moving. Now you don't need back ones in this case, like it doesn't have to connect to this because you'll have these sliding connector grippers. Now this does take a little bit of finessing just because the way the game works with physics, these windows are kind of, they're pushed down, but they're really kind of keeping an invisible force field around them. But yes, you eventually can connect yourself via something like this onto this crate. Now I may actually look into reducing the size and width of these window plates there. Something like this, and likewise this and this would actually serve this much better, and it would be more reminiscent of like a pallet forklift. And actually that's huge because from the beginning, this is a released creation, by the way, obviously not with this configuration, but from the beginning I had an issue with forklifts in general, because what is the point of them in a game like Stormworks where there's not really standardized cargo? Well, now you can use them to pick up things like this and carry this UniCon container specifically in its perpendicular kind of orientation. Now keep in mind, because the vehicle is narrow, you're going to be sliding this in and it could be a little tough and tight. And not only that, even if it's placed on its track, it's going to want to stay with you. So what I've done in the past is kind of manually pushed it. Oh, first of all I have to disconnect the magulls, and then you can kind of slide it in by foot like this on your person and then take the forklift and back it out. But this van is going to be released now that I've kind of developed this system. It's really cool to have a pretty much regular old consumer sized van of normal width rather than being absolutely wide and massive. Now the trucks are a little different and we're going to get into that in a bit, but for something like this actually works very well, and it allows you to carry that one single crate, fitting it into the back of this cargo van and just driving it around. So really useful system, kind of serendipitous like I mentioned, just because the original plan would never have worked like this, even though I did want it to fit into the back of, call it regular pickup trucks and stuff like that. Well, now you can with this. And another nice accidental serendipitous thing is the fact that because these here stick out one extra block, well, this control panel can be controlled. If it was orientated in the other direction, it would be in the wall and we physically wouldn't be able to press these buttons. So it's nice that I can actually press the buttons there and disconnect, for example, this, and then all you got to do is drag it out and it should kind of just come falling out. Of course, you may have to manually assist it and whatnot, but overall something like that can be done. Some other fun systems that I developed that I didn't show you last time, well, we got an armory now. So for those of you that want to have an armory, as long as you know the code from the OMA ships, you can access the armory. Now keep in mind it says OMA on the side, and people are inevitably going to ask, what's the code? What's the code? Well, the code is such that people that are familiar with my creations can access it, but I do want to quote unquote have some kind of security measures from allowing anybody to access it. So you got to be kind of a fan of my creations and then you can get in. I will make a water fire tank version of this where it comes preloaded with water and it's easy to fill up. It'll maybe have a hole so you can just suspend it into the water, and it will come with a hose to push out said water and put out said fire. Over here we got to find the right one. So like I said, we have the OMA cargo. Oh yeah, this one. We got OSAR cargo as well, or equipment. So just kind of emergency equipment, versus this one that is more so, I believe, a diving set and some other type of OMA things. These ones we had, this is new as well. It's pretty much just seats. This is actually an idea that came from one of my Discord server members, but pretty much the idea behind this is that if you have a helicopter or vehicle that doesn't have enough seats, you can use this to give yourself 6 additional seats for survivors or whatever. And there is the added bonus of, if you're flying above a hospital, you can actually just push this whole thing out, and it has a parachute, so you can just push this whole thing out with the survivors and all, and they will sail down and go to the hospital where they'll get taken. So you don't necessarily have to land the helicopter and come all the way down. That's kind of the benefit of this creation. I've showed you the living pod, but it is actually officially out, so you can use it yourself. And then we have these vehicles. So I did want the OMA one to have kind of the U-Haul style overhang on the front, whereas the Alta one just has the box. That's intentional. I want them to be a little different. And what's really cool is that if you jump into the back of the OMA one, you'll notice that there's actually gear up there. So you have some torches and diving equipment and stuff. So it is an OMA truck. You get yourself some specialized gear. And not just that, last time I showed this video, I had to rely on a purely, call it man-powered system, where I grabbed the cargo box and hauled it into the back of the truck. Well, no longer. In the previous video, specifically, I tried to take the hopper, I believe, or one of the heavier Alta pieces of cargo, and put it into the back of the truck. Well, it failed because the idea was that you'd either use a forklift and put the cargo directly onto the connector or sliding track here on the back of the truck, or alternatively, you'd kind of lift it up by hand. Well, you can't always do that, and in the case of this, yes, we have our vehicle, so we would be able to just raise this track up and drop it right onto there. But what if you don't have access to a loader like this? The whole purpose of UniCon specifically is to be able to be like a very light, easy, man-loaded system without the additional use of other things. So while it is nice to have supplemental things, you don't necessarily need them. That's where this winch comes in. So that's new. You'll attach it to the front winching point of your cargo. Now keep in mind there's a little ramp, and as you start to winch this in, it'll start to tilt. Yes, it's normal, but eventually what's going to happen is it's going to catch and it'll start to raise it up over top. Now once it's like this, it'll attach itself to that track. Now I recommend you keep winching in so it doesn't slide off. And once you've done something like this, then you can have it come up. Now when it comes up like this, you have two options. Either you can jump behind it here and kind of push it into place, or you can stay here and pull it into place. You will have to disconnect this, but you keep pulling, and eventually what's going to happen is, as you're kind of pushing it deeper and deeper into the box truck here, keep in mind also we made another mistake. Whoop, it's going to fall off. Of course, I had my H4 connectors disabled from kind of driving past the minefield of things. So if we get to this here, we'll be able to push this up and it'll start to climb. Now keep in mind this thing's actually full of coal, so it is heavy. Now, like I said, we grab this and drag it into the truck bed, and then you can take this cable out, and as long as you are pulling it, it will connect. Now you may be able to squeeze through here, but probably not. Well, that's where this door comes in. So I've actually thought about that and placed another door here on the front, so you can actually not trap yourself in the back of the cargo box, just because you definitely don't want that, and you definitely want the ability to not only see your cargo, but get through. One I didn't demonstrate last time that I wanted to is this vehicle one. So we have a bottom magall that we can connect to make it a little bit more stable, because once we take this quad and drive it up here, it's gonna like quick connect, and if you don't have that on, what's gonna happen is the whole cargo box and all may want to tilt. Well, now you release that bottom magall, and now you've secured yourself a quad onto the cargo box. It also works with the golf cart, but keep in mind for the golf cart, you have to back up onto it because the connector is actually on the back. So once you've positioned yourself like this, now this time I did not secure it with the mag-all, so you'll see kind of what happens. You definitely will want the mag-all solution, because if you don't use it, what's going to happen is when this pops in, now we may have to kind of push it left and right, and if it doesn't go in, you'll want to reposition it. So you do have to be a little finicky with it, but you get something like that. So mag-all has a purpose. You're not connected, you're trying to connect, definitely want your mag-all. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. New information, new uses, new pretty much features and functionality of the UniCon cargo and crate system. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. I really do hope that people implement it, but even if they don't, I will. Keep in mind, I'm going to put this on all of my new ships. I'm going to put it on some of my old ships, and I'm going to make sure that it becomes a system that is easily transferable and usable, especially when it comes to cargo crates and just things that are going to help you with quality life during the missions and during gameplay. So thank you all for watching. I want to give a special thank you to my Discord server boosters, my YouTube members, and to everybody for supporting watching. You're going to have more content and more creations coming soon. For those of you that made it this far, I am looking into making a loader like this for airplanes and other larger vehicles, but keep in mind that this is just work in progress and definitely may not stay this way, including I probably wouldn't want to load the primary direction, but probably load it in the other side and then push the primary into the plane, because something like this, you have to imagine the plane will be going in that direction. So it doesn't make much sense. Anyway, just a work in progress, something I started on.